For decades, Europe's auto giants built their empires on sprawling global supply chains, but in the race to build electric vehicles, that very strength has become a critical vulnerability. Today, we're diving into how one company, IBU-tec, finds itself right at the heart of a massive strategic pivot to solve this exact problem, and it's all based on a really fascinating analysis of its 2025 disclosures by HDIN Research.
So here's our game plan. First, we're going to set the stage with the huge challenge Europe is up against. Then, we'll zoom in on IBU-tec's unique technology and the landmark deal that proves it's the real deal. After that, we'll tear into the financials to see if the numbers really do add up. And to wrap it all up, we'll look ahead to what really matters in 2026.
Okay, so before we can really get the opportunity here for a company like IBU-tec, we first have to understand the sheer scale of the problem that the entire continent is facing. And, this isn't just about business. This is about geopolitics, it's about economics, it's about Europe trying to control its own destiny in this new EV era.
Just think of every battery you see here. Each one is a link in a supply chain that Europe has almost zero control over. For its most famous car makers, this isn't just some abstract business risk. It's a genuine existential threat to their very relevance in a world that's going electric.
And this number explains everything. 98%. Let that sink in. According to the research, that's how much of the market for critical cathode materials is dominated by Chinese suppliers. It's a dependency so extreme that pretty much every European policymaker and executive is scrambling to find a way out.
So, with that huge macro problem laid out, let's zoom right into the micro solution. How exactly does a German specialty materials company put itself in a position to solve this billion-dollar headache? Well, the answer comes down to a fundamental shift in their business and some seriously clever chemistry.
At its heart, IBU-tec is completely transforming itself. See, it used to be a high-end service provider, helping other companies with their tricky chemical processes. The analysis from HDIN Research points out this crucial shift. They're now making their own proprietary battery materials, and that allows them to capture a much bigger piece of the pie.
And they're not just betting on one horse. On one side, you have their lithium-based chemistries, LFP and its bigger brother, LMFP, which are fast becoming the industry standard for safe, affordable EVs. But on the other side, and this is the really exciting part, they're developing sodium-ion materials, a chemistry called NMO. This is the real dependency breaker because it just designs the whole lithium problem right out of the equation.
So, why is this sodium-based stuff so strategic? Well, it completely gets rid of the need for those critical and, frankly, often controversial minerals like lithium and cobalt. Instead, it uses plain old sodium. It's everywhere, and it's cheap. The analysis points to a potential 16% cost saving. It works better in the cold, and it has a much cleaner environmental footprint. It's a pretty compelling package.
And this isn't just talk. You can see their technology pipeline is actually maturing right here. Their advanced lithium material, LMFP, is already at industrial scale. That game-changing sodium-ion, NMO, is in that critical scale-up phase. And they have even newer stuff back in the lab. It's a crystal-clear roadmap from R&D right through to commercialization.
It's not just the materials, it's also how they're made. IBU-tec's products are designed for something called dry coating. Now, what does that mean? Well, compared to the traditional wet coating process that most of their Asian competitors use, this method uses way less energy, takes up less factory space, and, this is a big one, uses zero toxic solvents. It's cheaper, it's cleaner, and it's a huge operational edge.
So IBU-tec's got the tech, and they've got the process. But in this industry, that's still not enough. You need validation. You need a major player to step up and say, yes, we believe in this. And in 2025, they got it, in a partnership that pretty much changed everything for them.
This quote from IBU-tec's own management just nails the market dynamics. With regulations and tariffs on the horizon, European car makers are under incredible pressure. They have to find local suppliers. It's not a strategic choice anymore, it's a matter of survival. And IBU-tec is putting itself forward as the obvious answer.
And that pressure turned directly into a deal. Just look at the timeline here. They went from a first phone call in late 2023 to a crucial joint development agreement just 2 years later in October 2025. This sets everything up for full-scale production in 2028, and it just shows you how fast this is all moving.
And we're not talking about some small test project here. IBU-tec is building a 15,000-ton mega factory. It's already fully financed, and here's the kicker. It's backed by a 10-year exclusive purchase agreement from Volkswagen's battery company, PowerCo. That gives them an incredible amount of revenue certainty for a long time.
Okay,
A landmark deal is great news, but does the strategy actually show up in the financial results? Let's deconstruct the numbers from their 2025 report and see if we can find the proof in the pudding.
Let's start with the big, flashy number, a 355% increase. Now, that's not revenue, that's EBITDA, which is basically operating profit. It's a huge signal that the company's shift to higher margin products is having an immediate and really massive financial impact.
Now here's the part of the story that might seem a little weird at first glance. Revenue actually went down by 12%, and that's because they made a deliberate choice to gut out their low-margin legacy business. But look at the result. Profitability shot through the roof by 355%, and the company went from being in debt to having cash in the bank. This is what a successful strategic turnaround looks like, right here in the numbers.
And you can see that shift happening right here in this chart. Just 1 year into this new strategy, the battery materials business is already making up 40% of their total sales. It's quickly becoming the new core of the entire company, exactly like they planned. And here's what might be the most impressive financial metric of all. The company is funding its massive expansion entirely from its own operations. The cash they generated, over $16 million, more than paid for the $11 million they spent building new factories and tech. That is a huge sign of financial strength and really smart management.
So the tech is proven, the market validation is locked in with a huge partner, and the financials are looking incredibly strong. Let's pull all of this together for a final verdict and figure out what to really watch for in 2026.
The key takeaway here is that IBU-tec isn't just competing on technology, it's also benefiting from what you could call a powerful regulatory moat. New rules like the EU battery regulation are basically forcing carmakers to buy local. This isn't just a nice-to-have tailwind, it's a structural advantage that makes it really hard for foreign competitors to come in and compete in Europe.
So, how will we know if the strategy is staying on track? Well, the analysis highlights 4 key things to watch for in 2026. First, that new factory tower coming online in April. Second, any announcements of new major clients besides Volkswagen. Third, seeing real progress on scaling up their sodium-ion material. And finally, getting their battery recycling project up to an industrial scale.
Which brings us to our final question. Right now, IBU-tec is the only company in Europe making LFP at an industrial scale. That gives them a 2 to 3 year head start on everybody else. They're protected by regulations, and they're validated by the world's biggest automakers. So the question is no longer if they can pull this off, but really, how central will they become? Can this German specialist truly become the indispensable core of Europe's entire battery future? Well, 2026 is when we'll start to find out.